That's why he would do. We got evacuating a bookshop. No, that's why we got a debate about the arts, and you ended up evacuating a bookshop. I think it's a bad thing. I do think it's a bad thing, but I didn't come here to shout and hit. I came here from tickets I booked last week to listen to a debate.
I did.
There was a debate. There was a debate. There was a debate. Yes, how was that a debate? There was a debate.
Just to clarify, the new College of Humanities, approximately 7%, this will be succeeded by a question, don't worry, approximately 7% of the students will not have to pay, it seems, 20% will be given a bursary of some kind, 13 of the 14 professoriate are men, they're all white, they will, between them, teach an aggregate of 100 hours in their first year, that's 7 hours of seminars each. It's utterly disingenuous of the new College of Humanities to actually give this illusion to prospective applicants that somehow they'll be taught by Noel Ferguson. I wouldn't, even if you paid me £18,000, I need to learn about British imperialism through the lens of a neoconservative. However, that aside,
this question is coming.
This question is coming. I think it's incredibly disingenuous to compare this institution to equivalents in the US. It's being driven entirely by venture capitalists. You've got £10 million to spend leaving through angel investors. The directors are the trustees, it seems. You don't as yet have a student union, which legally you're obliged to have with regards to issues of student welfare. It's operating entirely for profit. There is a trust that will be dealing with bursaries, whether that's a legally separate entity. US universities like Harvard, for instance, are primarily philanthropic organisations. That's primarily their legal status. The legal status of this institution is a profit-making organisation that is entirely driven for returns on capital. One more point.
Well, I think you've
one brief peroration.
reply to that.
Can I just make one
So we move on to that subject of this evening.
Mr. Grayling.
Oh, you're interrupting now.
I just want to finish the point. Mr. Grayling, that's one thing 16 and 17-year-old children last year from Lewisham, from Brixton, from Haringey had. They believe another world is possible. He doesn't. So to me, he may be a public intellectual, but unfortunately he's as blinkered as anybody else.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, so I'm still waiting for your debate. I hope it's about tonight's subject.
It is about tonight, and I think we've been witness to a sort of theatre in the round, with which perhaps elements of a pantomime. And there's one clear villain, but my question is to try and discern whether or not the other two participants in the performance are two ends of the pantomime horse, by which I mean this. There is a phrase called the narcissism of small differences, which describes a process whereby people find some small difference between what is manifestly wrong in order to exonerate themselves from their own implication in the problem. Now, Professor Grayling, who is no longer a Vice-Chancellor, as I understand it, or the head of an organisation, it's all very well for you to say now, oh, it's a pity that people didn't turn over. And the other end of the horse says, well, there's not much I can do, it looks like the cuts are coming. Now, I'd like to ask you two, not our villain who is who's quite clearly lost any moral authority and it seems his composure as well, I would like you two, if it is not the case that this is simply an instance of the narcissism of small differences, will you not take this opportunity to denounce this man? Yes or no? Are you the pantomime horse?
To Anthony Grayling. From teaching in Birkbeck, an institution aimed at educating the working adult population of London, where you do not require A-levels to study for a BA.
Right.
So
Excellent
an institution with
£18,000
fees where you require 3 A's.
Irrespective, access to the will they suffer?
Why didn't I say, look, I'm more than happy, I really would, be more than happy to discuss all this. If you want to do this after this meeting, you're hijacking this discussion about the arts. I'm perfectly willing to talk to you. If you want to do this outside of it, that would be fine. They want to talk about the arts. Let them talk about the arts. And you can come and harangue me and I can try and explain something to you.
I want to talk about the arts.
Very good.
That was a question about access, actually.
Yes. Do we want to deal with the access question or the... Is that...
Well, I mean...
I have a question.
Sorry.
Okay.
Let's add that
Yes?
to it. Yeah.
Or do you want to ask first? I don't mind.
No, you ask your question.
Two things. Firstly, I just wanted to challenge something which both of you touched upon, which is, I feel like this has been talked about in quite an abstract way. We've been talking about the cuts affecting the quality of the art being produced, and we've talked about buildings. You mentioned buildings. I think what you've neglected here is actually this affects people's quality of life. This is actually wages. This is a wage issue. And for example, in the Arts Council, whole organisations have been cut. One of them that's remained is creative partnerships, but guess what? All of the workers in the lower kind of level of that are on short-term contracts, which can be cancelled at a week's notice. So actually, I think what we need to challenge here is the fact that these artists who are working in these organisations are not recognised as being entitled to a proper wage. They are all precarious labour, and this is the thing that frustrates me about this argument, is the fact that art is measured on the basis of production and impact, and that's actually the same with the humanities. That's how we evaluate it. We say, okay, how much impact will this have on society? Okay, let's go with science because whatever. Which is my second point, because I think the idea that the government is putting more money into science actually covers up something much more insidious, which is the fact that the art subjects are not actually being taken away, they're being privatised, and they're being withdrawn from the working class students. And organisations... Okay, so in contrast to your initiative, which endeavours to save the humanities, I don't know how true that is, an organisation, a university, London Met, has had all of its arts and humanities courses cut, which basically says they are denied to working class students. In contrast, your new university is going to charge £18,000. How do you justify that?